What initially attracted the director and designer to Malta was the Grand Harbour, because that was the one and only place where they knew they could portray the French Marseille Harbour. But once Kevin Reynolds saw the rest of the island and went over to Comino and Gozo, like most other directors, he fell in love with so much more that what was originally a 4-day filming schedule became 5 whole weeks.
Background action! Action! Captain Monroe is dead, sir.
Early on when I came onto the picture and we looked around at a couple places, we thought, well, we can create Marseille and Ireland.
The Chateau d'If, which features prominently in the film, we thought surely we'll find it in Ireland and we'll be able to take an Irish town and convert it to a Marseille town.
And we looked at a few spots, but it became apparent to me early on that it just wasn't going to look like Marseille because Ireland does not look Mediterranean at all. So we decided to go to Malta and look at that because we had heard things, and I thought, well, if I'm lucky, maybe I'll get 35% of the locations I'm looking for in Malta. We ended up probably getting 80% of the locations in Malta. It's quite extraordinary. I didn't expect that.
Have you never seen Marseille before? It was my home.
Whereas most of the rest of Europe is sort of been taken over by modern architecture, Malta still retains a very unique look.
I find myself in awe every time I get to come to a place like this and see a civilization that dwarfs ours.
The locations are exotic and really preserved well, like untouched by tourism. It really adds this authentic touch to the film so that you really will feel like you're transported.
The whole quality of the film, which is Mediterranean, I suppose, makes sense now that we're here in Malta.
And I can't think of another place where we could have found anything that looked like a Mediterranean port circa 1850.
Excellent architecture for the period, exactly like Marseille, 1814. And it also has a deep harbour, which enables us to get the tall ships in. They take a 15-foot draft. There's very few harbours in the world that can do that.
Because there are so few sailing ships left of that era in the world, there are only a couple of companies that still maintain these things, and in fact they sort of travel around the world for productions to use their ships, and the ships that we brought on had to travel from England to Malta, and it took them 3 weeks to sail down there. Well, we made the most of them in the time that we had them.
You try to afford as much as you can and make it look as great as you can, and if you're lucky, you start with a backdrop that this dock affords, for instance, and you fill in the rest with the efforts of a lot of different people.
Hello, my fine young gentlemen. Care to join me?
We have 15 or 18 ships, some small, some large, a crew of 150 and 200. We have, I think, about 20 horses here from Spain, along with a dozen carriages, 250 extras. All the costumes were flown in from Ireland and England, and we sort of put dirt down on the roads and sort of packaged it all together to recreate Marseille 1806.
We went out to look at the island called Comino, and we just stood up and said, Chateau d'If. You could not have designed it better. It was unbelievable. It was up on this 200-foot cliff.
We cobbled together the Chateau d'If, because it does not exist in fact, and so the exteriors were shot in Malta, where we established it as this fortress atop a cliff. And the approach was into a cave underneath, but inside the cave, we cut to the set on Ardmore to watch them ascend the staircase that goes up inside the prison. Huge set. It was probably 7 stories tall, something like that.
In the script, we had a Rome piazza. We went to Rome, we had to look at Rome. So virtually impossible to film it because we went to tourists and how busy it is. So we found a location in Malta, and the only thing it lacked was a fountain. So we had this fountain sculptured and made in London, and it's been shipped over. And it's 36 feet high and practical, and that'll give it the real Rome feel.
So we brought 500 extras in. Tom Rand dressed them all in carnival wardrobe. So you've got a square full of people going wild around this constructed fountain. And I have to say the Maltese extras were really terrific. They were very enthusiastic. Even at 3 o'clock in the morning, they were still giving us their all.